You know this part. The shoe fits. The prince finds Cinderella. The wedding bells ring. The story ends. Korea kept telling, because after Kongjwi's shoe fits, her stepsister takes her to a pond and murders her. By the end, that second death will show why a wedding can prove who you are and still fail to keep you safe. But first, the prince has apparently decided that foot-based identification is a sufficient foundation for marriage. The mice are horses, the pumpkin is transportation, and centuries of domestic abuse are about to be solved by exceptional footwear. These stories share an abused girl, impossible chores, magical helpers, a feast, a lost shoe, and a powerful husband. But one treats recognition as rescue. The other asks what happens when everyone recognizes you, and the people who hated you are still there. There is no original Cinderella. There are Cinderellas, hundreds of them, scattered across continents and centuries. Girls with fur slippers, gold slippers, silk slippers. Girls helped by birds, fish, cows, trees, dead mothers, and one extremely late fairy godmother. The version most English-speaking viewers carry in their heads comes largely through Charles Perrault. He published Cendrillon in France in 1697, drawing on tales already circulating orally. Perrault gave us the pumpkin coach, the midnight deadline, the fairy godmother, and the glass slipper. He also gave the story a moral. Beauty is valuable, Perrault says, but grace is worth more. And even grace may not be enough without a well-connected godparent, which is a surprisingly candid lesson for a story set near the court of Louis XIV. Be kind, be charming, and if possible, secure supernatural patronage. The Brothers Grimm recorded a German relative more than a century later. In Aschenputtel, there is no pumpkin and no fairy godmother. Help comes from a tree at the dead mother's grave and the birds nesting in it. The slipper is gold. The stepsisters cut pieces from their feet to force themselves into it. At the wedding, birds blind them. So even Europe cannot agree on what Cinderella means. Perrault offers grace, forgiveness, and advantageous connection. Grimm offers blood in the shoe and consequences with wings. But beneath those differences sits the same machine. A mother dies. A father fails. A second family turns a girl into unpaid labour. She is pushed downward, from daughter to servant, from bedroom to hearth, from a name to the ashes stuck to her clothes. Then something sees her. Magic sees her. The prince sees her. The shoe proves her. And because she is finally recognized, she is finally free. Across Korea, another girl loses her mother. Her name is Kongjwi. Her father remarries. The new wife brings a daughter, Patjwi, and soon the household discovers a remarkably efficient division of labour. Patjwi receives the benefits of having a sister, while Kongjwi receives the labour obligations of owning several farms. The Korean tale survives in many regional versions, so helpers, tasks and names move. But the basic cruelty remains wonderfully administrative. Kongjwi gets a wooden hoe, a bottomless jar, and an impossible mountain of grain before she may attend the village feast. This is evil expressed through project management. Not a dragon, not a witch, a list. And because folktales understand that bureaucracy requires a counter-bureaucracy, help arrives one department at a time. A black ox finishes the field. A toad blocks the hole in the jar. Birds process the grain. A heavenly maiden provides clothing and shoes. Kongjwi runs toward the feast. Near a stream, she loses one shoe. A magistrate finds it. He searches for its owner. It fits Kongjwi. He marries her. Here the two stories line up so neatly that folklorists place them in the same broad Cinderella family. Persecuted heroine, supernatural helpers, feast, lost shoe, marriage test, noble husband, ashes and beans, ballroom and village feast, fairy godmother and black ox, different furniture, same room. If the Korean story ended here, it would be possible to treat Kongjwi as simply Korea's Cinderella. But the wedding is not the ending. It is the midpoint. Patjwi waits until Kongjwi's husband is away. She invites her stepsister to a pond. There are moments in stories when the audience knows more than the character. We have met Patjwi. We understand that this invitation is unlikely to concern aquatic recreation. Kongjwi goes. Patjwi pushes her into the water and kills her. Then she takes Kongjwi's place. The magistrate returns to a wife who is not his wife, and does not know. That detail matters. The shoe could identify Kongjwi when she was poor, dirty, and hidden inside her father's house. But after marriage, the powerful man who chose her can share a home with her murderer, and fail to recognize the substitution. Public recognition has not produced intimate knowledge. The marriage moved Kongjwi. It elevated her. It gave her status. It did not eliminate the family conflict organized around her. It did not make Patjwi harmless. It did not make her husband perceptive. In Perrault's shape, the palace is outside the abusive household. Cross its threshold and the old power dissolves. In Kongjwi's shape, the household follows. The danger crosses the threshold with her. Kongjwi returns as a flower. The flower welcomes the magistrate. When Patjwi comes near, it grabs her hair. Subtlety has left the narrative. Patjwi burns the flower. Kongjwi returns as a bead. The bead reaches an old woman. From there, Kongjwi regains human form and arranges for the magistrate to encounter the truth he has been living beside. Kongjwi does not merely wait to be selected again. She stages her own recognition. This is the emotional reversal hidden inside the second half. At first, Kongjwi survives because helpers complete impossible tasks for her. The ox works. The toad blocks. The birds sort. The heavenly maiden dresses. After the wedding, those solutions are no longer enough. The girl who once needed the world to intervene becomes the thing that cannot be removed from the world. Drown her. Flower. Burn her. Bead. Erase her. She returns carrying evidence. One Korean study reads this chain as a movement toward a mature self. Another connects it to other Korean tales and classical narratives in which murdered women return, expose injustice and force compensation. The Academy of Korean Studies describes the second half as a structure of death and rebirth, attached to the first half's structure of marriage. The story changes genre without asking permission. What began as Cinderella becomes a murder story, then a ghost story, then a revenge story, then, for one deeply unfortunate stepmother, a story about accepting a food delivery without confirming the sender. Patjwi is executed. In severe variants, her remains are prepared and sent to her mother, who eats before discovering what she has been given. Folklore scholars treat forced cannibalism here as punishment. Horror constructed to make the guilty body consume the consequence of its own cruelty. Perrault's Cinderella forgives. Grimm's birds punish. Kongjwi comes back and participates in exposing the woman who killed her. It is tempting to reduce all of this to a clean cultural chart. West, romance. Korea, revenge. France, grace. Korea, justice. It is also wrong. France has cruel Cinderellas. Germany has mutilation and blindness. East Asian versions differ from one another. Some Korean retellings cut off the entire second half, often to make the story shorter or safer for children. A folk tale is not a national personality test. Stories travel. Publishers clean them. Audiences keep what frightens them. Still, differences can tell us something when we ask smaller, better questions. Why does this version dwell on labour? Why do its helpers emerge from fields, grain, water, animals, and household work? Why does marriage fail to end conflict with the stepfamily? Why do death, substitution, and return rhyme with other Korean narratives about women murdered inside family systems and restored through supernatural testimony? Researchers have proposed several overlapping answers. One SNU study connects the ox, toad, preserved food, and household work to communities shaped by both farming and waterways. The after-marriage plot resembles other Korean tales in which family order remains unstable after the wedding. The heroine's return satisfies an audience unwilling to let an unjust death stand. But no single explanation owns the story. Confucian family structure matters. Material life matters. Neighbouring tale traditions matter. The pleasure of watching a bully receive an unimaginably disproportionate package in the mail also matters. Perhaps the most revealing difference is not what happens to the stepsister. It is who gets to declare the danger over. In the Cinderella most of us inherited, recognition comes from above. The prince chooses. The shoe confirms. Rank relocates the heroine beyond the reach of her old household. The story closes because society has finally assigned her the correct value. Kongjwi receives that recognition too, and then the story demonstrates its limits. The magistrate's status cannot protect her when he is absent. His love cannot identify her when he returns. The shoe solved a mystery of identity once, but it cannot solve the murder committed after everyone already knows her name. So Kongjwi becomes her own evidence. Flower, bead, woman, invitation, revelation, return. The pattern escalates until the household is forced to acknowledge what it tried to erase. This does not make Kongjwi a modern action heroine hidden in Joseon clothing. She still relies on helpers, magic, social rank, and reunion with her husband. But she is not rescued by reaching the wedding. Her story insists that survival may require a second transformation after the transformation everyone celebrates. And that brings us back to the shoe. The object that was supposed to prove everything. You know this part. The shoe fits. The music rises. Someone says happily ever after. But happily ever after is not a place. It is a decision about when to stop looking. Perrault stopped when Grace entered the palace. The Grimms stopped when punishment reached the church steps. Kongjwi's tellers kept looking past the wedding, past the pond, past the flower burning in the fire. They kept looking until the woman everyone had recognized was finally safe. The two stories do not teach us what France believes and what Korea believes. They show us two different places where a storyteller looked at suffering and said, "No, not yet. That cannot be the end."